One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious.
Imagine a man sitting in a crowded cafe, phone in hand, eyes darting not to see, but to be seen. Every sip of coffee is a performance. Every glance at the window, rehearsed. Even his silence is curated, filtered, molded for an invisible audience. He isn't alone. He is never alone. He's with them, the faceless masses whose validation constructs his identity. This is our age, not of solitude, not of introspection, but of performance. To be seen is to exist. To be unseen is to die. You don't live anymore. You display. You tell yourself it's authenticity, but it's not. It's architecture. You build yourself out of captions and glances and aesthetic trauma. You edit your scars to look holy. You cry publicly so no one suspects how numb you are in private. Your soul is now a brand. Your image, your currency. Carl Jung warned us. The persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself and others think one is. And you've been wearing your mask for so long. You've mistaken it for your face. What you fear most is not invisibility. It's being seen without the filter. You don't want to be known. You want to be approved of, to be recognized without being revealed, to be applauded, not confronted. So you armor yourself in the theater of being understood, but never touched. You smile with the corners of your lips, not your eyes. You laugh at jokes that make your insides ache. You say, "I'm good," when your inner world is unraveling. And you film it. Because if no one watches, it doesn't count. If no one likes it, did it even happen? We live in a zoo of selves. Animals in glass cages, decorating our captivity to make it look like freedom. You tell your truth, but only the parts that won't threaten your image. You reveal your pain, but only in ways that make you look powerful. Even your vulnerability is a costume now. And here's the paradox that shreds the soul. The more you're seen, the less you're known. The more followers you have, the more strangers you become to yourself. Your identity is outsourced. You are built, not from within, but from fragments of other people's attention. It's why you always feel like you're about to be found out. As if any moment someone will tap you on the shoulder and whisper, "I see the real you, and you're not enough." So you hustle to stay visible. You grind for attention like a starving child begging for crumbs of existence. You perform harder, louder, deeper. But no matter how many likes you get, you still fall asleep with a quiet scream. Do they actually know me? Does anyone? Let's get brutally honest. You don't want to be known. Not really. To be known is to be unmasked. To be seen in your incoherence. To be watched in your collapse. To be held accountable for your cowardice, your rage, your hunger, your fear. You don't want that. You want to be praised, not pierced. Adored, not dissected. You want the illusion of connection without the cost of exposure. But here's the truth. Performance is a coffin. A seductive, velvet-lined coffin. But a coffin nonetheless. You think you're building a platform. You're digging a grave. Every time you betray your truth for applause, you lower yourself deeper into it. Every time you nod along with lies just to fit in, you put another nail in the casket. And the sickest part? We reward this. We celebrate the ones who show the most without ever revealing anything real. We idolize those who've turned their pain into aesthetic. We give medals to the most polished actors of humanity. And we ignore the man who sits quietly in the back. The one who refuses to perform. The one who is still figuring it out. The one who is real, but not rehearsed. Carl Jung believed the path to the self begins when you stop living for the collective. When you stop identifying with your mask and start confronting your shadow. But that journey begins with a death. The death of the persona. The death of being liked. And that's terrifying. Because most men today would rather be admired and empty than alone and whole. So let me ask you, what would happen if you stopped performing? What would remain if no one was watching? Who would you be if you weren't being seen? Would you recognize yourself? Would you like what you saw? Or would you collapse into the silence, realizing you never built a self? Only a stage? This is the disease of our time. Everyone wants to be seen. No one wants to be known. So we become visible phantoms. Always watched, never witnessed. But something deeper calls to you. Something primal. A voice not amplified through speakers, but whispered in the stillness. It doesn't want performance. It wants integration. It wants the death of illusion and the birth of substance. Let's get something straight. Recognition is not connection. They are not even cousins. They are rivals. And the more you chase one, the more the other starves. Recognition is cheap, fast, addictive. It hits like sugar, burns like fire, and leaves you emptier than you started. Connection, on the other hand, is slow, demanding, costly, because real connection means showing your real face. Not the polished one, not the version you rehearsed in front of the mirror, but the raw, contradictory, half-formed, trembling self. The one you were taught to hide. You see, somewhere along the line, you were convinced that love means being admired, that being understood means being agreed with, that intimacy means always being seen in your best light. But that's not love. That's a photo shoot. And what you call understanding is usually just curated resonance. You present the parts of you know will get a yes. You hide the parts you fear will trigger a no. It's not connection. It's manipulation and makeup. Let's get something straight. Recognition is not connection. They are not even cousins. They are rivals. And the more you chase one, the more the other starves. Recognition is cheap, fast, addictive. It hits like sugar, burns like fire, and leaves you emptier than you started. Connection, on the other hand, is slow, demanding, costly, because real connection means showing your real face. Not the polished one, not the version you rehearsed in front of the mirror, but the raw, contradictory, half-formed, trembling self. The one you were taught to hide. You see, somewhere along the line, you were convinced that love means being admired, that being understood means being agreed with, that intimacy means always being seen in your best light. But that's not love. That's a photo shoot. And what you call understanding is usually just curated resonance. You present the parts of you know will get a yes. You hide the parts you fear will trigger a no. It's not connection. It's manipulation and makeup. Carl Jung warned about this subtle form of spiritual prostitution, the exchange of truth for validation, the selling of self to feed the mask. He said, the more compulsively one tries to be recognized, the more uncertain one becomes about one's own reality. And that's what you're feeling, isn't it? That slow erosion, that dull ache, that quiet scream in the pit of your being that says, they love me, but only the version I let them see. So you become a caretaker of illusions, a manager of impressions, a servant of your own persona. And every time someone gets you, you wonder, but would they still want me if they saw it all? Let's go deeper. Recognition triggers your ego. Connection challenges your soul. Recognition says, give me what I like. Connection says, show me what's real. Recognition is about visibility. Connection is about vulnerability. Recognition is you performing for the crowd. Connection is you confronting your solitude and inviting another into it. And here's where it breaks most men. You were taught that being a man meant being admired. But true masculinity is not admiration. It's integration. You want to be seen as strong, unshakable, confident, put together. But do you want to be known as afraid, conflicted, in progress? If the answer is no, you're not a man. You're an actor. Let me tell you what real connection feels like. It's uncomfortable. It's clumsy. It's awkward and slow and often terrifying. Because it's not scripted. It's not poetic. It's not tweetable. It doesn't always make you look good. But it grounds you. It roots you. It makes you feel something deeper than admiration. Belonging. And not belonging to a group, or a trend, or a tribe, but to yourself, to your contradictions, your imperfections, your incoherence. You stop trying to be the idea of a man and start becoming an actual one. Here's the trap. Most men confuse approval with intimacy. If she likes your post, you feel desired. If he nods along, you feel validated. If the room claps, you feel loved. But these are echoes, shadows on the cave wall. No one has touched you. They've touched your projection. And you've confused the spotlight for the sun. Nietzsche called this the herd mind, where your sense of worth is outsourced to the crowd, where you no longer think. You echo. You blend. You dissolve. He said, he who cannot obey himself will be commanded. And most men today, they are being commanded by the demand to be seen, but never known, because being known would require something you've been taught to avoid. Truth. And truth is not beautiful. It's not likable. It's not palatable, but it is liberating. Let's stop pretending. You're not hungry for followers. You're starving for mirrors, for people who don't just see your best angles, but witness your entire geometry. You want someone to walk into your mess and not flinch, to hear your confusion and not correct you, to stand in your fire and not try to put it out. That's what Carl Jung meant when he spoke of individuation. Not becoming a better version of your persona, but transcending it, outgrowing it, shedding it like dead skin. You do not become whole by becoming liked. You become whole by becoming truthful, even when it costs you attention, even when it costs you relationships, even when it costs you the identity you've spent your whole life curating. Now let me ask you something dangerous. Would you still be you? If everyone stopped clapping? Would your life still have meaning? If your phone stayed silent? Would you still get up? If no one was watching? That's where connection starts. Not with them, but with you. The man behind the mask. The self beneath the story. You were not made to be watched. The soul was never designed for performance. It was built for integration, not applause. And yet, here you are, curating your pain, polishing your edges, packaging your identity for public consumption. You wake up and check your reflection, not in the mirror, but in the eyes of others, in likes, in comments, in the echo chamber of digital affirmation. You think you're growing, but you're just becoming more legible to an algorithm, not more known to yourself. Carl Jung warned of this when he described the persona, the social mask we create to function in society. It's necessary, but it's dangerous when you mistake it for the whole. The persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself as well as others think one is. And today, the persona has metastasized. What was once a mask has become your skin. You're not wearing it. You are it. Here's the paradox. The more visible you are, the more invisible you feel. Because exposure without intimacy is psychological strip mining. You give everything and receive nothing. You reveal yourself, but no one sees you. And so, you are trapped in the loneliness of being seen but not known. You've become a display case. All form, no soul. Jung called this fragmentation, the loss of psychic wholeness. When your outer life becomes louder than your inner one. When the noise of attention drowns out the whisper of truth. The persona becomes tyrannical. And the shadow, neglected, begins to rot in silence. That's why you feel tired. That's why your laughter is hollow. That's why success feels like sand in your mouth. You are performing a version of life that rejects your totality. Let's go further. There is a spiritual violence in being observed, a sacredness violated. Ancient mystics, monks, warriors, they all practiced withdrawal, not as escape, but as reclamation. To hear the self, you must mute the world. To know who you are, you must leave behind who they say you are. But in modern culture, silence is framed as failure. Invisibility is treated as death. If you're not broadcasting, you don't exist. So you stay plugged in, exposed, shattered into pixels, and your soul forgets how to be whole. Let me be blunt. You are addicted to being perceived, and that addiction is killing your sovereignty. You think you're connecting. You're not. You're leaking, dripping bits of yourself into public spaces that were never designed to hold a soul. The masculine path is not one of overexposure. It is one of containment. A strong man is not the one most visible. He's the one who can carry silence like a sword, who speaks only when speaking costs something, who knows the power of being unknown. Nietzsche saw this coming. He saw the coming century as a crisis of identity, where man would lose the ability to build himself from within, and instead outsource his meaning to the mob. He who fights with monsters must take care that he himself does not become a monster. What monster are you feeding every time you overshare? What inner voice are you killing every time you choose visibility over truth? Let's make this practical. If you can't sit in a room by yourself, without reaching for your phone, without needing a witness to your existence, you are not free. You are possessed. Possessed by the god of visibility. Possessed by the fear of irrelevance. Possessed by the illusion that you are only real when someone else confirms it. Carl Jung called this spiritual possession, when the ego is no longer in control, but ruled by unconscious forces, by complexes, by archetypes hijacked by culture. And today, you are not possessed by demons. You are possessed by an audience. So what do? You stop turning your soul into a story to sell. You do the thing no one in this culture knows how to do anymore. You shut the F***ck up. And you listen. You listen to your anger. Not to express it, but to hear what it's protecting. You listen to your fear. Not to soothe it, but to learn what it's trying to preserve. You listen to your hunger. Not to feed it, but to see what it's really starving for. This is individuation. The process Jung spoke of becoming whole. Not better. Not more popular. Not more digestible. But whole. And wholeness cannot be broadcast. It can only be earned. In silence. In struggle. In solitude. Let me ask you this. If you disappeared from every social space tomorrow, would you still recognize yourself? Would you still have values? Convictions? A center? Or would you collapse like a paper-thin projection that only existed in relation to applause? That's the wound. And it cannot be healed by more exposure. It can only be healed by stepping out of the light. You disappear. You vanish from their gaze. You reclaim invisibility as a spiritual practice. You stop documenting every insight. You stop converting your pain into content. You say you want the truth. But do you? Do you really want to know why you feel empty? Or do you just want a prettier story to tell yourself? Because truth, real truth, not the sanitized kind that fits into captions, will ruin you before it heals you. It won't validate you. It will shatter you. It won't stroke your ego. It will murder it. Truth is not some gentle teacher. It is a ruthless fire. And anything false in you must burn. Carl Jung understood this. He didn't view transformation as a gentle self-improvement project. He called it individuation, and he described it as a process of death and rebirth. You must die to who you were, so you can become who you are. That's not a metaphor. That's an execution. Let's be clear. The persona you've built, the role you play for others, it's not just a mask. It's a prison, and you've decorated it well. You've made it noble, charming, useful, but it is still a mask, and you're suffocating behind it. Because the more you protect your image, the more your soul atrophies. You keep thinking the pain is a bug in the system. It's not. It's the system trying to warn you that you are betraying your core. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Your emptiness is earned. It's not random. It's not unfair. It's the natural consequence of building a life around avoidance. Avoidance of pain. Avoidance of silence. Avoidance of conflict. Avoidance of your shadow. You've been trying to be liked, accepted, understood. But Jung would tell you, that's not individuation. That's assimilation. You don't become a man by being understood. You become a man by standing alone in what you know is true, even when the entire world misunderstands you. The masculine path is not about finding yourself. It's about killing everything that isn't you. Killing the need to explain yourself. Killing the compulsion to be nice. Killing the addiction to safety. Killing the part of you that's waiting for someone to give you permission to be what you already are. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. But there's no privilege without pain. No liberation without loss. No mastery without confrontation. You must confront the part of you that wants comfort more than truth. The one who plays small. Not because he is small, but because he's terrified of what he'd have to destroy if he played big. Let's bring this down to ground level. You feel empty because you've spent your life avoiding the war inside you. You've outsourced your power to ideology, to self-help influencers, to cheap spiritual slogans. You've chased alignment while avoiding confrontation. You've pursued healing while bypassing discipline. You've clung to therapy as if understanding your trauma would automatically free you from it. But freedom doesn't come from understanding. It comes from transformation. And transformation is a violent act. The shadow doesn't integrate itself. You have to turn toward it. Name it. Face it. Wrestle it. Bleed with it. And then bind it to your will. You're not here to be a good little boy with clean language and spiritual quotes. You're here to be a sovereign man with integrated darkness and unshakable conviction. A man who doesn't flinch when his truth offends. A man who doesn't dilute his vision to fit in. A man who carries his own meaning like a sword and dares the world to try and take it from him. This is the call. Not to be liked. Not to be palatable. Not to be explained. But to be real. And real men are terrifying. Because they are whole. Because they've buried the boy and walked out of the grave wearing the bones. Here's the decision point. Will you keep polishing your image? Or will you destroy the false self you've built? Will you keep soothing your pain with performance? Or will you wage the war that your soul has been begging you to fight? Will you keep seeking peace? Or will you earn power? You can't have both. Because peace without power is slavery. And power without truth is corruption. But when you face the truth, when you murder the mask, when you stand in the fire of who you really are, then, and only then, can you begin to build a life that doesn't need applause to be worth living. You are not here to be soft. You are not here to be endlessly healing. You are not here to be relatable. You are here to carry the fire. Not because it's easy, but because everything collapses without it. The masculine fire is not a metaphor. It's not an aesthetic. It's a burden. And if you don't carry it, someone weaker will try, and the world will burn in the wrong way. You were built to carry the fire of consciousness, of responsibility, of truth-telling, of direction when everything else is chaos. But that fire has a cost. It isolates you. It scars you. It demands your death daily. Most men today are not taught to carry the fire. They're taught to perform it, to act like protectors while they are still children inside, to signal wisdom while being emotionally castrated, to memorize quotes about strength while outsourcing their power to systems and therapists and fake spiritualism. They've never suffered consciously. They've never bled with their eyes open. They've never said no, not to women, not to weakness, not to their own addiction to comfort. They are burning out instead of burning bright, because they think they can skip the confrontation, because they think discipline is toxic, because they mistake self-expression for self-actualization. Carl Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And if that's true, then most modern men are still asleep. The man who feels empty is the man who is hiding from his fire, avoiding his truth, suppressing his anger, caging his will, begging for approval instead of forging his authority. You don't become sovereign by learning how to meditate. You become sovereign by learning how to suffer with purpose, by learning how to sit in discomfort without flinching, to feel rage without being possessed by it, to hold tension, psychological, relational, spiritual, without collapsing. This is what it means to carry the fire, to endure heat without losing yourself. Let's break it down. There are 4 fires you must learn to carry. 1. The fire of awareness. You must see the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. No illusions, no fantasies, no delusions of saviorism. Just raw, objective clarity. 2. The fire of responsibility. Everything in your life is either something you chose or something you tolerated. Own it, even the pain, especially the pain. 3. The fire of transformation. Your job is not to be consistent. Your job is to evolve constantly. Let parts of you die. Let new ones emerge. Mourn nothing but your own refusal to grow. 4. The fire of direction. The world is lost. Your relationships are confused. Your soul is waiting for orders. And you've been waiting for a sign. You are the sign. Move. But this fire doesn't make you invincible. It makes you accountable. You will be hated for carrying it, mocked, misunderstood, feared, because your fire reveals everyone else's shadows. You'll walk into a room and feel the tension shift, not because you're aggressive, but because your stillness is louder than their performance. You'll say less, but command more. You'll need less, but attract more. You'll expect more from yourself and everyone around you, not because you're arrogant, but because you finally remember who you are. A man who refused to betray himself, even when the entire world begged him to. And yes, you will want to quit. You'll want to go back to being liked, to being understood, to being soft. But you won't, because the fire is in you now, and it will consume you if you don't carry it. Jung said, "Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health." Modern men are addicted to ease, but ease is the enemy of depth. You are not being punished when life is hard. You are being summoned. The man who avoids difficulty avoids destiny. The man who avoids pain avoids power. The man who avoids responsibility avoids his kingdom. There's one more thing. You cannot carry the fire if your hands are full of excuses. Excuses for why you haven't started, why you still people please, why you stay with a woman who disrespects you, why you numb yourself instead of confronting your weakness. Excuses are the ash of a man who used to burn. Let them go. Let it all go. The old story. The nice guy persona, the fake peace, the spiritual bypassing, the intellectual superiority, the emotional immaturity masked as enlightenment. Burn it all. And when the smoke clears, you will be standing alone, but free, with nothing to hide behind, nothing to prove, and everything to build. There's a silence most men fear, not the silence of solitude, the silence of being seen. No noise to hide in, no performance to impress with, no mask to wear. Just you, and the reality of what you are, and what you're not. That silence is a grave for the weak, but for the man who dares to enter it, it becomes a forge, because in that silence, you will hear something terrifying. Your soul. It doesn't care about your comfort. It doesn't care about your followers, your job title, your relationship status, or how spiritual you pretend to be. It asks one question: Why are you still living as if you are not already dying? This is the final betrayal. To live like time is infinite. To wait for permission. To speak like someone else's approval matters more than your truth. The soul doesn't yell. It whispers. But if you ignore it long enough, that whisper turns into illness, depression, rage, a haunting emptiness you can't name. Because you were meant to change the world. But you can't even change your own mind. You were meant to conquer. But you've settled for coping. You were meant to die a warrior. But you're living like a spectator. Why? Because somewhere along the way, you made a choice. To be safe instead of strong. Liked instead of respected. Nice instead of powerful. Familiar instead of free. But here's the truth no one will say. You cannot heal what you refuse to kill. You cannot become whole without destroying the parts of you that were built in fear, raised in cowardice, trained to flinch at the truth. Carl Jung didn't want you to be comfortable. He wanted you to be complete. And completion demands chaos. It demands contradiction. It demands you wrestle the dragon and not sedate it. So here you are, at the edge of yourself. You've watched the world lie to you. You've tried their solutions. You've swallowed their pills. You've recited their affirmations. And still, you're hollow. Because what you need is not another method. You need a moment of rebellion. You need to shatter the mirror, burn the script, and kill the version of you that was designed to survive, but never to reign. That's the secret they never tell you. Healing isn't gentle. It's not soft. It's not aesthetic. Healing is violent. It's loud. It's ugly. It's bloody. It's sacred. Because you are not rearranging furniture. You are setting the house on fire. And when the flames die down, and the ashes cool, and the smoke clears, you will find something ancient standing in the rubble. You, not the wounded child, not the performing boy, not the dependent, the pleaser, the projection, but the man, the one who saw his shadow, and didn't run, the one who burned his mask, and stood naked in truth, the one who lost everything, and found himself. So now, you choose. You can close this video, go back to scrolling, let the fire die, and convince yourself that this was just another edgy rant. Or, you can sit in the silence, let the whisper become a roar, and start carrying the fire, not because you want to, but because you must. Because the world needs fewer spectators and more sovereign men. Because your woman needs someone she can respect, not manage. Because your son will become what you refuse to confront. Because your soul didn't come here to repeat trauma, but to end it. Because every second you spend hiding is a second of your life you'll never get back. Because one day you'll die, and the question won't be, did they like you? The question will be, did you rise? So rise. Not tomorrow. Not when it's convenient. Not when it's trendy. Now. This is your echo. Let it haunt you. Let it wake you up. Let it tear through the walls you built around your soul. And if you have even an ounce of clarity left in you, share this. Because you're not the only one who's starving for truth. The other men are out there, drowning in the same silence. And they need to know. They're not alone, they're just asleep. Wake them. Or die in the silence with them. Your move.